Evans, News 9, Oklahoma City.
I can't understand you. Food in your mouth.
I didn't expect you that quickly, Coach. I'm sorry.
I mean, serious. I can't understand a word you're saying.
This is your Is Everybody Gonna Be All Right? Leader Fan Radio Network.
That's all. I'm done.
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 30 seconds past the hour, 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back to a midweek edition of the program. Lots planned today between now and 6:30. Very warm day. Have we eclipsed 90 yet, or are we upper 80s?
I know the high today was 90.
Ooh.
It's 88 now, I believe.
Dew point?
Let me check the dew point. I don't have it pulled up yet.
Why not? You know that's all I care about.
That's true. I should have been prepared.
By now.
I should have been prepared.
I think this is the first time we've had to think about dew point.
It's true. Let me hit the National Weather Service forecast here. The dew point, 61 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's pretty tropical.
That is, yeah, that is.
First time I think we've had a touch of tropical to our weather, and we certainly hope it won't be the last, because I know a lot of you love tropical. You love the steam. You love the humidity.
Why not?
And some of you wallow in it. Is wallow the right word? I'm not sure.
Revel,
I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, wallow.
You wallow in it. You don't like the humidity.
I do wallow in it. Yeah, that's true.
I don't mind it.
Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line will be rebooted shortly at 646-86. We'll give you uglydeck.com guest lineup information as well. Got a story that I think Guardsy will be able to relate to specifically, but I don't think he'll be the only one. But I do we need a, is it a wellness check? Do they call it a wellness check?
Yes. I think so.
For all of the people in my business, because a lot of this is media driven, but some of it I think is fans who get influenced by media jackals. I need to find out if the people who've decided that the only thing that matters from this point forward in the National Basketball Association is Wembanyama being the best he can be, are they okay after last night's performance? I'm being serious about. You know me. I might have a touch of Schadenfreude to me, but I don't necessarily revel in individual failure. But there was a side of me that almost was encouraged and pleased that Victor looked as human and as overmatched, frankly, at times in yesterday's game. The Oklahoma City Thunder, I think, defensively did a great job. You know what they do well? Everything. In that when people go into a game and say, well, here's what you got to do with them, they say, no, we're going to do 3 or 4 things with them. We're not going to be that predictable. So we're going to try a little different thing in the first quarter than we do in the second quarter, because once they adjust, we want to be ready to throw something else at them. And I just thought they did a good job keeping them out of the middle and, quite frankly, keeping them away from the basket. Didn't seem all that interested in being there. In part, I think it's because of the approach that the several defenders took against him. But I'm not here to throw cold water on Wembanyama's accomplishment already to this point and his promise. But I am here to say to the folks who literally have make it sound like the difference between this league succeeding going forward is everything going perfectly for Victor Wembanyama and we making sure he gets that place or not. We're going to be okay. Even if he doesn't win the title this year, next year, for whatever reason, and the year after that. The league will be okay. And there's a part of me that feels sorry for him, because the Jackals, who have become they've lost themselves in his eyes, have built him up already so much that they're ready to pound him for, what was he? Wasn't he like 4 for 17 last night from the floor?
I think that's right.
I think it was in that range.
Didn't have a shot for the first 7 or 8 minutes,
exactly.
Maybe more.
Exactly. It's almost like they've already built him up so much that if he has another game like that, it's going to be like, what's wrong with Wemby? There doesn't have to be anything wrong with them, but this league is healthy enough that to me, it was always foolish to make it seem like nothing else matters in this league. I'll give you an example, and I'll bring it up next time I have Sam Mitchell on. The other day I'm listening to Sam Mitchell. He's bitter. He's the opposite of Charles Barkley. He sees a physical approach. This was a couple of games ago. A physical approach by Oklahoma City. And he basically said, I'm telling you, this league's going to regret not stepping in because if he's the future of the league, and if he gets hurt, they'll be held to pay. He has to be better protected. Meanwhile, Charles Barkley, if you recall, I think we talked about it that day, said anybody who thinks that what Okie City is doing is all that physical, you're stupid. You're overreacting to it. So those are the two poles on this thing. But what I want to say to Sam is the same thing I'm saying right now. The league has no obligation to make certain that he pays off, that Wemby over the course of a year pays off on every prediction about him. The league does. Now, the league has an obligation to see that rules are enforced and that cheap play is not encouraged. But I got to tell you, man, I go way back. I go way back to the days of Lou Alcindor / Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And if you think he didn't get knocked around and challenged, in fact, the Chicago Bulls had a center back, this would be in the late 60s, probably early 70s actually, named Dennis Autry. Look him up, Awtrey. And basically what Autry was best at doing was pounding on Kareem and knocking Kareem around. Am I here to endorse it? No. Is it basketball? I don't know what is, but this idea that somehow we have to protect him because he means so much to all of us. The league's obligation is to give him a chance to flourish and also to give other teams a chance to beat him, right? To challenge him, to make him prove that he can handle what all superstar players are challenged on. It's the same thing. It's a little different because of his size, right? And he's unprecedented to that extent. We've had 7'4", 7'5" guys before, but never as coordinated as he is, right?
Right. Nobody that could
Mark Eaton
square
was
up,
7. No,
square up a half-court three-pointer at the end of the half and just bang it like it was nothing.
Exactly it.
Yep.
But I just want to be sure everybody's okay because the league's going to be fine even if the Spurs. Now, you may not want Okie City to win, and you may be rooting for the Spurs for that reason. I understand some of that, but that's parochial. That's not about the good of the game or that every move that every team makes is to give him the best chance to carry this league into the next generation. I mean, aren't other teams obligated to beat him, to try to beat him?
That's the plan.
To come up with, okay, let's see. Let's try some different things, see how he reacts. Now, given his age and lack of playoff experience, I don't think it's surprising at all that he had as bad a game as he did yesterday. I will admit there were stretches in it where I felt for the first time since I've watched him this year, I didn't sense he wanted to be in it. Mm-hmm. He didn't look. I mean, of course, they all got aroused during one of the timeouts.
The third quarter
he pulled
timeout.
everybody together.
Yep.
And he's talking to them, and he's telling them exactly what we need to do.
14-2 run.
The problem with it, that's true. The problem with it was he didn't really answer the bell himself for most of the game, which I think even the head coach kind of called him out after and said, he's got to be more selfish is what we're looking for. But we're going to be okay either way. Whether he's the quote-unquote face of the league. We get so hung up on this notion, but I get this sense that there are jackals in my business who think it's the whole league's responsibility to make sure that when I proclaimed he's going to be the greatest player ever, that he has a chance to do that. It's not about you. And it may well be about Victor, but let it evolve. Let it play out, and let other teams try to challenge him. That's what they are. The league is not set up for Popovich, although it may feel that way sometimes, the San Antonio Spurs Davey. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. First of all, Dennis Autry once punched Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the jaw.
He did. I watched the game.
And also, now
he's on WGN.
A little quieter life. In 2012, he moved to Manzanita, Oregon, where he operates a bed and breakfast. So if you're ever in Manzanita...
That's what he's doing now?
He's 78 years old.
Okay.
I don't know if he's still doing it, but in 2012, 14 years ago... That's what he went to do. So if you're ever in Manzanita, look up Dennis Autry and look out for the right hook.
My recollection of the fight really was they're in boxing stances at one point, the two of them. And Autry definitely landed a punch. I don't remember if Kareem did, but it was an actual fight. And I'm not endorsing that, but we keep acting like, what's been put in front of him is different than anything else. It's not. It's the way it works. And he will be, believe me, any great player in this league gets celebrated.
Yes.
But let's let it happen in due time. The league is not obligated to make sure this is the year, because we keep hearing that. Nope, you don't have to wait. It's right now. Well, it might be, but he's got to prove it, and I don't think the Thunder have to go, well, we better get out of the way.
Yeah.
It's the future of the league. We better not lean on him too much. We better not pound on him too much, because I think that has always been an aspect of the game. There are limits, right? But we're pretending like this is the first time a player, even like I said, a player of his size, has been physically challenged by what's taking place. And last night, I don't even think there was anything that was viewed as that cheap.
No.
They just had a really good plan, and they crowded him a lot.
Yes.
And they just made him uncomfortable in a way that there were a couple times where I thought he was going, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm ready for this.
For a guy that averaged fewer than 30 minutes a game during the regular season, I do wonder if the collective weight of the last month, having to play big minutes and having, it beaten out of him in the Wolves series too, right? That was their plan as well. They didn't do it as effectively as Oklahoma City, but basically for the last month and a half, he's been beaten down. That's been the game plan. I would imagine that does wear on a guy, especially who's 22.
And who's not used to playing more than 29 minutes a game.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, but what's been interesting and where I think people get sideways is all regular season, people were wondering and saying, well, the Spurs are great, but you have to go through some battles. You have to go through some wars. Are you just going to pull up? Houston did this last year with a young team, got the 2 seed, got bounced in the first round.
Yes.
Not that teams were lining up to play the Spurs, but there was a healthy skepticism because they are so young on whether or not they were going to be able to pull it off. And then they started winning. They obviously did what they did to the Wolves, which was dominate them in 3 of the games. And they won game 1 here. And so people all of a sudden kind of forgot that there usually is a little bit of a steps you have to go through.
Absolutely.
And just because you thought they were going to accelerate it, and they still might, by the way. They could win game 6, they could win game 7. Now people are almost like confused that, well, they're supposed to, they were supposed to do this, and we thought they were going to do this. Where 3 months ago, I don't think anybody was picking it or anticipating it.
It's the deal of, I want to see another great player, unprecedented in his package. Well, that's going to be used against me. Have a chance to be the very best he can be. I want to see him do all those ooh and ah things that on highlight reels I see and we've seen from time to time. That's great. But other teams aren't obligated to make that easy for him. That's part of the process here. And I'll say again, I hope Wemby never gets hurt. But the league's not going to shut down if he were. It isn't. It's too strong an operation, and there's still too many good players. There's too many good angles, and why we feel like we got to build. I know this is the next big thing, so that makes it exciting and interesting, but it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, what happened yesterday? What are the Spurs going to do to make him better? Well, some of it is what he might have to do and what he might have to go through, and it might take a minute. Even if you predicted, he's the best player ever right now. I've heard people say that. I'm bothered by that. Because I don't think I'll give you the best example. And I heard this earlier today on a national show. if you watch Wemby right now, do you say to yourself, well, when he needs a basket, here's his pet move. Here's where he gets the ball. Here's what he can do with it. The answer is no.
Not
that
really.
doesn't really exist yet. And it was almost said like, my God, there's really not which again is okay. He's got time to do that. But that's the part about he's got to be the greatest of all time already. He does not have. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had a shot called the sky hook, which he perfected in college. It's the most devastating, unstoppable shot in the history of the game. It's more unstoppable than Wemby hitting a jump shot from 25 feet, believe it or not. Because, you know why? Whenever Kareem or the Lakers needed a basket, or the Bucks, where he first started, they'd set him up on the low block, and the game would be over. Chances are he was going to make the shot. All right, let's stay on schedule because we have a guest at 3:30. I'll give you details on that. We'll get to a couple of texts that have come in early. I need to know if the quarterback controversy is on already. And I'm very confused about the Kyler Murray beanie discussion, which is already taking place after his appearance earlier today. So lots to get to and a lot of time to get to all of it.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barreiro on the Fan.
St. Cloud Police Chief Blair Anderson, regular contributor to the program, is scheduled to join at the bottom of the hour. And we expect Kessler by phone, you told me today. He will join at probably 5:30 this evening. That is the uglydeck.com guest lineup for today. 4 o'clock hour, we're going to get into some good juicy stuff that Guardsy will relate to as well. A lot of good text coming in. I think several people are misinterpreting the point of the early rant. I don't believe that, and when I say, is there a need for an intervention, a wellness check on Wemby fans who can't get their arms around how badly he played this last game, I don't think the people I've heard from and paid attention to, they're not talking about officiating in this case. They're not talking about he's not getting fouled. He's not getting enough. He's not getting the free throw line enough. In fact, yesterday he was 12. He got to the free throw line. There were too many free throws. Period. He had 12. I think SGA had 19, which is the most I think he's ever gotten in a postseason game. Wemby's had 12, 9, 10, 13. Against us, he had 9, 9, and 12 the last 3 games of that series, not counting the disqualification game. No, I'm not putting it on that basis. And by the way, the other thing is there's bitterness about not getting the challenge on an obvious call that should have gone Spurs' way. But as I understand it, the problem with the Spurs approach was they're all doing on the sidelines the same twirl.
Right.
Without first call. You have to call a timeout without any mention of a challenge.
Yep.
And they didn't do that. So that's not the officials conspiring to help OKC. I know there's a lot of OKC baggage, but I don't really think that had much to do with it at all. And I don't know how you watch a game like last night. If you're watching, in my opinion, if you're watching a game like last night and the only conclusion you come to again is the league is conspiring to let OKC keep the title, I don't think you're paying attention to a number of things that the Thunder did extremely well last night. They're getting it, and they've got 2 of their rotation guys out, right? Minimum. Yeah, I think it's 2. So this has my point on this has nothing to do with officiating. It's just that I worry about this caretaker approach as it pertains to any particular player. Now, if you're talking about, again, cheap shots being thrown, those always should be legislated, and should always be, discouraged as much as you possibly can. But again, we've never seen anything like this guy. He's going to be an all-time great. I don't think there's any question. It's actually, he's blossomed probably quicker than people thought. He should be celebrated. You should be able to enjoy him, but I don't think there's a conspiracy here. Somebody has said that basically what I'm describing is Caitlin Clark. No, that's like 100% false. The difference is Wemby faced, even within the league, nothing but celebration from the beginning. Clark faced nothing but headwinds, had to deal with headwinds from the moment she appeared in her first exhibition game, for God's sake. That's about as diametrically opposed as you could possibly get. Now, were there people who too quick to want to say Caitlin Clark's the best player who ever played? Yeah, that's probably true. But I have no problem saying we've never seen anybody like Wemby. I have no problem saying the WNBA has never quite seen anybody like Caitlin Clark. That doesn't mean, though, that she's yet the greatest, nor does it make Wemby the greatest as well. Had one other question here, or one other text I want. Dan, Manzanita is absolutely fantastic. Definitely worth the visit and stay at his B&B. Somebody says they've stayed there.
Maybe they have. I believe them.
Is it so? It must be pretty famous.
Or it's just a good coastal town. I assume it's a coastal Oregon town, which are very, very cool.
It sounds like it's kind of a cool spot for sure. Correct. Where else were we here? The other thing I've observed, this is Ron from Golden Valley, they have matched Castle's energy and push and shovingness, if that is a word. He has not liked it. Well, part of what's hurt Castle, again, I think, is they're asking him, and I love him, you love him, they're asking him to do too much. So some of that's out of necessity when Fox hasn't been available, but he's not I think what's been proven on him is he's got a chance to be one of the great guards in the league. There's no doubt. Seems also to have a great head on his shoulders, great maturity. But if you pressure him the right way, he'll give up the ball. He's given up the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't see that against the Wolves.
Not enough.
Although he didn't have to handle it quite as often as well. That might have had something to do with it. The other item he mentions is Caruso is a baller. He is.
Caruso and Hartenstein
they've been great.
Winning the series for him, in my opinion.
There's no question.
They're phenomenal.
And I know because of the facial expressions and everything, Caruso's an easy guy to pound on. And you can even say Hartenstein is a guy who go, oh, what's he do? He makes plays,
he
man.
Does.
He knows his. What do the best quote unquote role players do? They play their role.
Their role.
And they minimize. They know what they can't do, and they don't try to do it. Right? They don't try to be more than they can be. That little floater he's got,
little push shot. They call it
that whatever you want to call that. What's the track event where
the shot put?
The shot put.
Yeah.
That shot put shot of his is got to be. I mean,
it's money.
He doesn't just do it from like 8 feet.
He did it from the foul line.
Free throw line.
I know. That's when you know it's your night.
I'm waiting for him to hit a 3-pointer, shot putting it.
You might see it Game 6.
Let's come back and chat with the chief. There was breaking news last night in the city of Minneapolis involving the Minneapolis Police Chief, who is now resigned. We'll get a former St. Cloud Police Chief's reaction to it, and maybe a little bit about the legacy of Chief O'Hara's reign here in Minneapolis. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Barreiro on The Fan.
It happens only once a year.
We're breaking, last night that Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara had resigned after what sounds like a fairly contentious meeting with the mayor of the city of Minneapolis. We are, as always, pleased to be joined by former St. Cloud Police Chief Blair Anderson, joining us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. How are you, sir?
I'm well, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. How long have you been retired from your chiefdom, your chief job?
It will be 4 years in November, Dan,
okay,
and
so
it doesn't seem like it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. There's always the question, no matter what the profession is, whether the further you get away from the job that you did, the more you celebrate it and say, yeah, I'm fine. I'm filling the time fine. Or it can go the other way. Sometimes you go, the further you get away, maybe the more bored you get, and you go, well, I kind of miss a number of aspects of it. Where are you on that continuum?
Apply the former and not the latter to me, Dan. I miss the people, as cliche as that sounds, but I do not miss the job. I don't miss all that it entailed, and especially now with the way things are going. And again, we'll be all right as a profession, but I'm glad that it's someone else's turn.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything more to give.
Right.
And so I departed the field and let some other folks with fresher eyes take their turn.
All right. As this story has been reported, I'm looking, for example, at a StarTribune.com story that indicates that the mayor had presented the chief with a report that, to quote the story here, showed O'Hara interfered with an independent investigation by a law firm into alleged sexual relationships with city employees. Investigators found that O'Hara had deleted a contact card off of his work cell phone of a material witness in the investigation that he discussed the investigation after being told explicitly not to. The mayor then saying, he explained to him what those violations were. His thoughts on it, gave him some time to read it, the chief to read it. He ultimately tendered his resignation. Before we get to the job itself and the legacy of what your own impressions of the job that the chief did, does this fall under the classification of whatever? Because I don't know that still. I think there have been some people who've quoted officials saying there's still no necessarily confirmation of the relationship, but there's the obvious issue of interfering with the investigation, and that's going to get you in trouble.
100%, Dan. And again, if we believe what they have told us, and so far, right, that's the only thing that's conclusive. But if that is the case, yeah, Dan, that's a huge no-no, and that's actionable right now. And honestly, you should expect to be terminated or asked to resign if you interfere with an investigation, particularly if you're the subject of said investigation. It's not easy to do, but you have to stand by and wait for the findings. You cannot make inquiries. You cannot talk about these things with anyone. It's a difficult thing to do, but here's the end result if you violate that.
How would you grade the mayor to this point in terms of how he is handling? He's coming under heavy siege already, certainly from members of a city council that obviously he fights with a lot. What do you see so far from the mayor?
Is there a worse grade, Dan? We're old enough. Is there a worse grade than an F minus?
Might be, yeah.
And here's why I'm saying that. One of the things that I heard the mayor say this morning, and which is troubling to me, is that if I had known then, meaning when he renominated Chief O'Hara, what I knew now, then and I'm paraphrasing him, he would not have fought as vigorously for his renomination. And so my question becomes, if you didn't know, you should have, because all things lead back to you. You are the leader of that city, and your most visible city employee, which is your police chief, as is the case in any city, is under investigation for numerous allegations. How come you didn't know? So to me, that speaks, that's more of an indictment on the kinds of people with whom he surrounded himself, because he should know what's going on at every step, in this guy's opinion. So how didn't you know?
Right. So you're saying, it sounds like you may be questioning when he knew it, but regardless, not knowing in of itself is an indictment if indeed that's the case.
I think so, Dan. And the best example I have is, we're old enough to remember when President Reagan tried to make us believe that Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North by himself was doing an arms deal with Honduras and helping the Sandinista government, but he didn't know about it. Sorry, I need things to make sense to me. And so if the mayor didn't know, he should have. And if some people think that's unfair, too bad. That's why he's the mayor. He's sitting in that seat. any department head that's going through what Chief O'Hara has gone through, the mayor should be the first person to know what's going on. So how did he not?
There's a couple of quotes I want to get your reaction to as well, as someone who's had to deal with, police bureaucracy over many, many years in many different locations. Again, reading from the Star Tribune piece, City Council member Robin Wansley said the serious nature of the allegations and the fact that the investigations were opened were grounds for O'Hara to be put on administrative leave. Now, I don't know what governs, if different places have different policies on that sort of thing. Is that true in your mind, that if there is this kind of investigation going on, even before wrongdoing is established, that the person in charge should be on administrative leave? Do you agree with Wansley on that or not?
Not wholeheartedly, Dan, because if you think about it, this started out, at least when it began to surface for us, the public, a few months ago, there were 30-some allegations. And I remember being asked, I think Chad asked me this, and I could not and would not comment on it because my question was, what are the allegations and who's making them? So those are the things that matter the most before you decide if you're going to put someone on administrative leave, particularly a department head, because as the mayor or whomever makes that decision, you have to be cognizant of how that's going to affect morale, the rumor mill, and all kinds of things, that person's reputation before anything has been proven or established. And so I could see them being a little bit more cautious in that regard, and it's not an excuse until they got more information. So, yeah, no. But, again, once it was learned that he interfered with the investigation, game over.
Can you give us a sense? I don't know how much time you spent around Chief O'Hara, how much time you've had to talk to other people who've worked in that department. You certainly know people in that department. We've talked about that and the concerns you had about changes that needed to be made over a period of years, maybe decades, going in this department. What were your impressions of any time you spent with him, or in terms of what you might have heard from people who were working under him?
I spent very little time with him because I was kind of at the end of my career when he showed up after George Floyd. But I can tell you, at least as an outsider looking in without any internal knowledge about the inner workings of MPD, I think he did a really fine job given what he had to work with. So when you unpack that, they lost a third of their staff in a major metropolitan city. And what people have to realize is that he walked into a raging fire, literally and figuratively, and I think he handled that masterfully. But people have to understand also that doesn't stop 911 from ringing. So that means the day-to-day things that always are happening continue to happen. And so he's got to juggle all of those things and provide proper amount of public service and get buy-in, not only from the community, from the council, from advocates. And I think he did a really fine job doing that. And you don't have to believe me. Look, whenever there was a serious incident, you saw him. He was there. He was on scene. He was sharing information with the public, which is all you can ask. And it's just sad that it ended this way.
You know, it's interesting hearing you lay that out because based on what we have continually heard from the city council, even before this particular story has emerged, you couldn't possibly, you'd be shocked to hear what you laid out in terms of your assessment and what you heard from even people in the community. I don't get that vibe from at least several of the city council members at all, and haven't for quite some time.
Well, I don't either, Dan. And so to that, all I will say is consider the source. This is a group of people who, out of one side of their mouths, continuously say that they have the best interests of their community at heart, and they want to do what's best for all. But when the police department comes to them and asks for a training facility because clearly the one they have is outdated, they make bold statements like, well, that's a waste of money. And I'm paraphrasing them again, but that was the gist of their comments. Well, if you're not willing to invest and give those folks the resources they need to bring to fruition all the things that you're telling the community you're going to do and that you want to do, what is a person supposed to do, Dan? I don't know who in their right mind would take that job, and I'm being serious. And believe me, there were inquiries made when I was still chief in St. Cloud about perhaps maybe throwing my hat in the ring, and there was never a question in my mind that I wouldn't. And I know a lot of Minneapolis cops that are fantastic police officers and better human beings, but that's just not something that... Here's the thing, Dan. They have too many problems over too sustained a period of time for any one administration to fix. And that's my assessment now. People can take me to task for that all they want, but that's my professional assessment. And that's my assessment as a citizen. There's just too much to be done there.
I was going to ask you, and you already kind of maybe already answered the question. Leaving aside what led to this, and it sounds like there's clearly vulnerability here on the basis of some of the allegations that are laid out there by the mayor and others. I don't, for the life of me, know why anybody, I guess anybody with options, would want to even consider this job.
Agreed. And the saddest part for me is I want so bad for the folks like Brian O'Hare to step up, because self-admittedly, I didn't, right? But he did, and he did a fine job, and I want that to continue for all those fine people that I know and the ones that I don't, that toil every single day, and they're doing the job the right way for the right reasons. And the leadership has just been lacking across the board. And when I say that, I mean starting in Jacob Fry's office, and I'll say it to his face. He's a piss-poor leader, and attitude reflects leadership. That's my assessment. He doesn't have to like it, but that's what I see.
Cedric Alexander, O'Hara's former boss, is quoted in this story as saying that the mayor failed to heed repeated warnings regarding O'Hara's, he describes it, problematic behavior in 2022 and 23, scoffed at the mayor's decision to allow him to resign. Quote, the signs were there very early on. I went to the mayor a number of times, and Jacob turned a deaf ear to it. Alexander claiming that he raised the alarm that O'Hara regularly bucked his authority, blew off meetings with other department heads, and disrespected MPD front office staff. I can't speak to any of those. I don't know that you can either. But the great irony here, which you and I have discussed off air, is that within the community, the cry was for someone who was going to what? Stir the pot. Who was going to make people he worked for uncomfortable, the status quo uncomfortable, right? That's, I thought, what you're looking for here. Again, I'm not going to defend. I don't know any of these individual instances here. Maybe there were cases where he went over the line. But that's the great irony about, we keep hearing about all these complaints that were out there. Well, even from within the force, well, what were they about? And were they coming from, in some cases, people who wanted the status quo to stay in place in Minneapolis and didn't like that somebody was coming at this from a very different, my guess, occasionally confrontational point of view.
And that's the conundrum, right? Because the person who will step in and do those things will often be met with resistance, right? That's just rudimentary on every level. And then to me, that tells you that person is doing the right things right when you do have some resistance early. And keep in mind, it's always a challenge coming from the outside to any organization, because it says two things to the people who are there, especially a cop shop. One, there was nobody here good enough, or two, our problems are so extensive that we need an outside influence or a fresher set of eyes who did not come up in this culture to help us fix this. Now, let me go backwards real quick. Cedric Alexander has less credibility to me than Jacob Fry, and I've had more personal encounters with him, and I ain't scared to say it to his face. So anything he says now, Dan, should not even be taken with a grain of salt. Because here's the news. If he did do that and he was met with resistance, why did you stop? If you're a leader and you see something going on that you know isn't right, you keep pushing on that to make it right. You don't come back after the fact and go, well, see, I tried to tell you guys. Nah, I'm not buying that brand, especially from him. He has no credibility with me, zero. So I don't give a damn what he has to say. He should probably just be quiet.
612 guy listening to our conversation wants to know this. Why are we memorializing a cop who interfered in his own investigation? Are you serious? How would you answer him?
We're not memorializing him. You asked me a simple question about what I thought he did and how well or poorly of a job he did. That's the question I'm answering. So stop with the nonsense. How are we memorializing him? What the first thing I said was, if you interfere with an investigation, anyone, particularly one that you're the subject of, game over. How did he miss that?
I don't know, but it's a soundbite world, and maybe he just came into the conversation late. But this falls under the classification of he may well have forced his own resignation or dismissal if he had not resigned by his very action. Okay, I don't think either of us is necessarily disagreeing with that. But to sort of reduce everything that he did or didn't do to that, given, like I said, it cracks me up. We've had nothing but, I think to a large extent, understandable angst and frustration about the police power structure here. You've spoken to that subject with us over many, many years, going, right after Floyd, etc. And so we're just supposed to now talk about this and give, which we have several times, and give no time to, okay, how did he handle what you very aptly described as the pressure cooker situation that he walked into? I don't understand why we can't do two or three things at the same time, Chief.
And I don't either. And I would say simply to 612 guy, who I know is a wonderful contributor. I love the things that he contributes. So I was answering his question, and I appreciate that maybe he did not hear us at
right.
the outset. But I'm with you, Dan. It is noteworthy. And here's what we say in our business very simply. It's the totality of the circumstances. And so you can't negate what he did all along, not completely, because it ended this way. But those things are still noteworthy to me. Now, people can place whatever value they want on those things, but those things actually, and they also happen. So to dismiss that, I think, would be intellectually dishonest. And I'm not going to do that. I mean, you asked, he did a fine job given what he was handed and what he had to work with. And it is unfortunate that it ended this way because that sets them back even more. It just does. And Katie Blackwell is going to do a phenomenal job. She's going to do the best she can with what she has, but it still sets them back because these kinds of things reverberate for a long time.
There's no question. Yes. So where do they go from here? What? I assume there's going to have to be another big search, right? That's the way this stuff always works.
I would think, Dan, unless they're going to stay with Chief Blackwell and make her the permanent, then they will probably do another national search, and my fingers will be crossed for them. But boy, I'm going to worry about anybody who is willing to accept this job, and that sounds duplicitous to people. I'm sorry about that, but not sorry, because I just don't know how anybody, to your point, can come in and serve all of those masters, without being blowtorched at some point.
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate the time as always and your candor, sir. Be well, and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks, Chief.
All right, always good to be with you, Dan. Have a great day.
Appreciate you. Former St. Cloud Police Chief Blair Anderson, kind enough to join us on a what's now become a very newsy, well, actually, I guess the story broke yesterday, but much of the aftermath, this story is going to hang around for certainly quite some time. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open if you'd like to react. 646-860-1065. 8-6. Kessler is scheduled to join at about 5:30 this evening. He's got a lot of good nuggets on his list. I don't know if we're going to get back to this story or not, but we might at some point. I'll keep an eye on the texts. I mentioned the 4 o'clock hour being open for a conversation that I think Guardsy and I have kind of had before, but it kind of took it. This particular story caught my eye and took it in a new direction. So I'm gonna sort of set up that story, get Guardsy's reaction to it as a guy who has not 1, not 2, but 3 kids, each playing. Is it 5 sports? Each of your kids, or is it 4?
This season?
Yeah.
It's 4. I think next season we kick it up to 5.
You might go to 5.
And what are seasons anymore anyway?
They all blend at this point, right? They never end.
They never
That's
end.
what it amounts to. We'll get to all of that and much, much more. And if there's any interesting sightings on that Kyler Beanie at the Vikings practice facility, TCO, did you see the photos?
I've seen the photos. I've seen the discourse. I've seen the explanation. I know more about Kyler's beanie than probably anything else in the news today.
Do we need to do it this way? At the end of every day, do we need to have a score like who's ahead in the quarterback derby that allegedly the Vikings are welcoming?
J.J. McCarthy said it's wide open.
So who's ahead after today? Is it J.J. or is it Kyler? Does the beanie itself put Kyler ahead? The unusual nature of wearing a beanie when it's 90.
Or in the adopted
Outside.
hometown of Bud Grant, does it put him behind?
I hadn't even thought of that.
You're listening to Barreiro.